This is the meeting after the meeting. None of our participants get paid, and we don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous. Enjoy the show. This is a Target commercial.
Sounds like it could be like a Apple commercial. You know, everybody's like dancing around.
I see like somebody skateboarding, somebody like. I
got me
again,
in a
I
good
said,
mood.
Gabe,
I
said,
like it.
Gabe surprised me. He said, "How have I not surprised you every week so far?" I said, "You have."
This is
He
different.
He
Yeah,
did
I like it.
earlier. He did have some polka playing, and I was like, "If you do that, Chris is gonna lose his mind."
I'm gonna lose it.
Like really bad.
But polka's an interesting thing. It's got the same tempo as drum and bass. Actually.
Oh, really?
So,
I didn't know that. So
It's very
drum and
odd.
drum and bass technically was created
Not really.
out of polka.
It's just the same. It's just a coincidence
Ah.
that it's the same tempo.
Okay.
I don't think there's no.
So basically,
connection on the
you
music
are
tree.
making polka music, Chris, when you make your music.
It also has the same tempo as like 1930s like swing jazz.
yeah.
Which is, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. These are tidbits of information no one cares about.
We should probably move on. How's it going?
Week's been good. It's you know, the family's been sick here, sick there. I mean, it's just like a merry-go-round of fucking sickness. You
Of
know what I
life.
mean?
It's life.
Well, it's life with kids.
Life with kids.
Yeah.
Life with kids.
So
All
it's,
right.
you know, they get sick. It's like, you know, you're just as my buddy Mike likes to say, you're just dodging raindrops. You know what I mean? Eventually, you're going to get hit.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, let's get into it. This is the meeting after the meeting.
Meeting.
I'm John.
I'm Chris.
Welcome to the show. This is episode 13. We are here. Happy to be here, recording live on Zoom. The Meeting After the Meeting is a podcast that is uploaded to podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Music and others. If you are joining us tonight live on the Zoom, we are super happy you're here like we are every week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And stay tuned because later in the show tonight, we've got a special sketch of the week, which will include audience participation. So you'll be able to
Stick
ask
around.
our guest a question on tonight's sketch called No One Likes Asking for Help, questions for our guest. So get ready to ask some good questions because we've got a great guest tonight. Why don't we introduce our producer, Gabe? Hello.
Hey everyone, welcome.
Are you feeling better this week?
Yeah, but I mean, I sound pretty good. My voice sounds a little hoarse, so it sounds a
How
little
was your
interesting.
week? How's your week been?
Good. Yeah, I got a promotion at work today, which was very nice.
Whoa! Can
Whoa,
you
dude.
hit the clap track?
Yeah, man.
Oh, stop it!
Oh,
Stop.
wow! Look at that,
Stop.
Gabe.
Is that a now here's the
I
question.
didn't know people loved that. You know,
Is that a
how much money I
promotion?
make.
Is that a promotion in title or also
Compensation.
compensation?
Actually, it's mostly compensation, not
that's
much
good.
title.
That's,
Wow. Okay.
That's
Those are the best kind of
That's
promotions.
the best kind of promotion.
Not much more responsibility, but
No,
more
there's
money.
More money.
There's more responsibility. It's just very. It's a fluid company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
man,
you.
that's good.
Awesome.
Thank
we're
you.
we're happy that you are now not too big to make it to the show every
Oh,
week and
never,
produce.
never, dude.
Good. You texted us today and said I'm super excited about the show tonight because
Yeah.
of our guest and of everything we
Well, I
have
didn't
going
say
on, so-
why. I didn't say why. I mean,
You didn't. But
it's part of it.
But
Yeah.
why would you be that excited about this show if it wasn't for our guests?
Yeah, I was actually just excited for the show because I love the show.
which speaking
I
of
don't do it for the money.
we
Definitely
know
not.
that. We know that. You do it we know you do it partially for the free burrito,
Yeah.
but that alone is
Still not enough.
Yeah.
Service.
It is. It is service. And with that being said, a little quick tidbit about our guest. So when Chris and I initially
Full transparency here.
full transparency started this process, we had one episode, we almost want to call it like the forgotten episode,
Yeah.
where
It was so bad.
sound
Not
wasn't
because
you
of
know,
our guests.
No, sound wasn't good. There was no real
We didn't
video. I
know
think
what
the
we were
video
doing.
was on my iPhone, and it just we didn't know what we were
one
doing.
camera,
And we didn't post that episode. And our guest tonight was
sour.
somewhat of a guinea pig. I don't think he was sour.
He would let full transparency. He would never admit it. He was a little.
Well, okay.
Good
Well,
thing
we
he's
we
muted.
haven't introduced him yet, but we'll give him a chance to say his piece. But this is what we'll say. He came on and he was willing to help us out when
Yep.
we had nobody else, and we're really grateful.
It was a beta.
And tonight he's back, and he's going
Back.
to give it to us, the
Love it.
real deal. Let's welcome Mike L. from Oakton, Virginia.
Mm.
Thanks, guys. Oh, am I on?
You are.
Thank you, guys. Glad to be here.
We're glad you're here, Mike. So what was that? You were our first guest.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit different.
And there
down
was
here.
a reason we asked him, because Mike is a solid AA member.
Stop.
And no, seriously, one of my favorite people in AA.
Yeah.
And
And he's got a great story,
got a
which
great story.
you'll if you haven't heard his story, which I'm sure there are people who haven't, you're going to be I don't even know what the word is. You'll just be
Excited?
We're not going to
Somewhat
go into the
excited.
same
Pleased.
detail as the first.
we won't
forgotten
have
episode.
time.
no. Yeah.
But we know
We're gonna
what
leave
we're
some
going to
stuff
get.
out this time.
Yeah.
The old one will be released as a special feature.
No, it will never see the light
It'll
of day.
never be released.
No, it won't be. It was good though.
It
We
was
got
good,
into some
yeah.
stuff that
It was
nobody had
long,
ever heard.
though. It was long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember admitting some things that I had never actually shared a name. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you want access to that, maybe email us or let us know. Maybe we'll give out some
Isaac will
some
probably ask
special.
for it.
Yeah. Okay. With that being said, let's get into it here. We always like to start out with something we call the stats, and that's just your basic info, Mike. So why don't you give us that?
250 pounds. No, I'm just kidding.
5.
It's an honest
5,
program. Come on.
10.
All right, 265. No, I'm, my sobriety date's July 25th, 2005. Not my first one, but
Class
hopefully
05.
my last. 05. I do have a sponsor, and I do have a home group.
Well, that's good. We're super glad you're here. How has your week been, Mike?
I mean, pretty easy, The girl's out of town, so I've been staying at her house watching her cat.
Okay.
So I've been enjoying the luxury of a very nice house all to myself.
Drinking cappuccinos,
Drinking
eating
a
her
lot of-
food.
Yeah, I know. She definitely hooked it up before I left. I've been gladly taken care of.
Did she leave you a 20 on the counter for some pizza too?
No, she bought a bunch of frozen pizzas that I've been crushing.
There you go.
Nice and
You're
easy. It's funny. I love cooking,
got
but
it
I do
made.
not cook for myself. I've eaten frozen food every night this week, and I cook for her. I cook for other people, and I make some bomb meals. I refuse to cook for myself. I don't know why.
I feel like frozen pizzas, though, is like a thing that, it's if you cook it right, it can be really good.
3 minutes in the microwave.
Yeah.
You can't get it wrong.
What? No, no.
Wrong.
You can microwave
That's how I
them.
make mine.
I mean, maybe if it's like a Mama Celeste or Totino's.
yeah,
which
it's
is
a
like
little tiny personal pan Walmart
I mean, that was
special.
like drinking pizza. That was like, dude,
Hey,
Totino's
some
was
things
my
don't change.
drunk go-to, man. I mean, I loved Totino's. It was like $1, like 99 cents for a pie.
I don't think I ever lived anywhere that had a microwave. I can't remember.
Well,
I don't think I did.
That's
I'm
really
like
bad.
literally
It's
thinking
not
back.
surprising, actually.
And
I
there's a
don't
little
know
bit
your
of
story.
in getting into what Mike's story is going to be like. He never lived anywhere with a microwave.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And at
That's
the
rough.
end, we didn't even have running water. No, we had running water. We didn't have drainage. That's
We
what
didn't
now.
have quality, good drainage.
But we had a 7-Eleven. I ate a lot of big bites.
Yeah.
A lot of big bites.
Did you, if you were at 7-Eleven, did you get the nachos, but then
No.
put way too much meat on them?
I would get the hot dog and put meat and cheese on it. That was like my go-to.
for it.
That's what
I would do
lived
that too.
for.
Yeah.
I had 2 of the big bites, and with the buns and
load it
nacho
up.
cheese and
Load it up.
all that Harmel chili.
To the point where you got to use a fork first to get through some of it, and then you can eat the hot dog.
I don't think I ever thought to use a fork. No, I just ate it.
I think that's where
I just ate it.
heartburn started for me with 7-Eleven chili. Oh,
Oh, dude.
Oh, so good.
So good going in. Not that great coming out.
I don't even remember the part coming out though.
so let's let's get into it here. Why don't we get into the three W's, Mike? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you were like?
All right, what I was like. I mean, God, as a kid, I was not like everybody else. I mean, I was definitely a scared kid, but like my childhood was a little off. But like for the most part, like I just mostly kept to myself. I got a lot of good grades. You know, I was a smart kid, but I was shy, man. I was full of fear. I didn't know how to make friends, and I remember that, you know, when I took my first drink, you know, all that changed. You know, I remember I was working as a bag boy at Ancona's Market, and I was going to school with some of the kids there, but I didn't really know who they were. But I think they recognized me. You know what I mean? And one day,
Ancona's Market was just a little grocery
a
spot.
little grocery store in
Okay.
Georgetown, Connecticut.
Gotcha.
And yeah,
The equivalent of like what? Like a Safeway or like a smaller...
probably like an OG. What's the Amazon store now?
Oh,
One that's
Amazon
real
Fresh?
popular.
or Amazon Fresh, yeah.
But much smaller. Like
Okay.
it was like
All
it's like it was like one of the first like organic markets, but it was small. It couldn't have been any bigger than like 2 7-Elevens put together.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? But like it was all organic food, all like it was just
Yeah.
a small town, small homemade, like good shit.
Okay.
Am I allowed to curse on this? I'll try to.
I do all the
Chris
time.
says,
yeah.
Chris,
Okay. All right,
Chris
all
says
right.
the
Just
F
making
word
sure.
all the time. So yeah.
I'm not going to go that far. I love alcohol.
Well, I mean, I say it's explicit on the
Here we go.
podcast. I mean,
Yeah. No, we do say it's explicit.
yeah, I
so,
mean,
Yeah, no, you're
I
right.
can't not. I mean, just I'm surprised my kids aren't cussing.
I am too.
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Can they talk yet? One of them can.
Jack talks a
Jack,
lot.
yeah, he's
Jack,
talking a
Jack
lot.
loves
I don't know what age they start talking. I don't have kids.
Yeah. Not
All right,
yet.
so
Not
Ancona's
yet.
Market, bag boy.
Bag boy,
Very
Ancona's
uncomfortable.
Market, very uncomfortable. Keep to myself. I get good grades in school, believe it or not. I wasn't that dumb. But they just asked me if I wanted to stay late one day and drink with them. And man, I'll tell you, it was a moment. It was like one of those moments where it's like I have all the childhood like teachings of being a Jehovah's Witness and like drugs are bad and you don't drink, even though like it just I didn't even know like what drinking meant. I didn't know what getting drunk meant or doing drugs. Like I didn't know any of it. Like I had nothing to fall back on except they were showing me some attention and they were being friendly. And so I think I was just attracted to that.
Yeah.
I was attracted to the idea of making some friends. And so I went with them after hours. Like we closed up the shop, we went around back, and I remember them just all sitting around there, just like chilling, like having fun and laughing. I remember feeling so jealous about how easy it was for them to just talk with each other and like interact and like it just felt like they had something. It felt like they had something I'd always wanted and always felt like I was missing. And I didn't even know what it was. Like I couldn't put my finger on it. I just knew that I did not feel how they looked.
Yeah.
You know? And then I remember this big bottle. I'm pretty sure it was Pop-Off vodka. It was whatever had that red label and that screw top and the big like gallon like plastic jug.
Half gallon. Yeah, the
Yeah,
big
dude,
half
whatever
gallon.
way. It was big and it was clear and it was red and it started going around. And I just remember them taking big sips. And I remember being a little scared. I remember being like, I don't know what this is, you know? Like, what's going on here? Like, what are people doing? Like, again, no reference whatsoever. Nobody ever taught me anything about drinking or anything like that. And then I got to me and I took a big pull and I remember it burning and thinking I was drinking something like that was so
Pop-Off
bad.
burned,
dude.
man.
But it
In
burned.
the best way possible.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you, after about 3 or 4 pulls, because I was gonna impress these guys. I was gonna do whatever they were doing.
Yep.
I just remember that magic happening. I remember whatever was missing, it wasn't anymore. It was just there. I remember feeling just like they looked. I remember sitting there, looking you in the eye and not being afraid of anything and just carrying a conversation and just being cool and just being comfortable. And it was like when they talk about how your skin fit, that is the first reference I ever have in my life of just feeling like I'm okay, who and what I am in that moment with what's going on. It was awesome.
I
It
love
was
when people.
awesome.
I love when people say I was born a quart low.
That makes sense. That
And
makes
for
sense.
a while, I
to me.
didn't understand, but then I was like, "Yeah, that's it." Because I would drink, and then I felt normal,
Just felt
like
normal.
everyone else.
Just
you
like
know?
that's all it was. You just felt like everybody else.
Yeah,
It was awesome.
and you were right. They did have something.
Mhm.
They had vodka.
Well, I mean, they had.
You just didn't know you wanted it yet.
Well, I know they also didn't have a spiritual dilemma. Probably, you know what I mean. They were
Maybe not.
okay. Maybe not. Maybe they were. Maybe they just didn't live in a van for the last year. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know?
drinking Pop-Off vodka in the back of a restaurant or store is not an indicator of alcoholism, but it's it's a good start.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
So that
sure.
that's where it started. A lot of fun. What kind of and we know your story. Where did alcohol lead you to when it went down that road? Where did you find yourself at the height of your alcoholism?
So good or bad? Because there's like two very different stories there. I mean, there was like there was a peak of where everything was just on fire and awesome, and then I came out of a blackout butt naked in a stolen car.
Let's hear. Let's go. Stolen car to farmhouse.
All right. So like about 2 years later, and I mean, it was 2 great years of just partying and living the dream. And I can go into a lot of detail and tell a lot of crazy stories about those times, but I'm not going to do that. But I can tell you that eventually I just stole a car naked, got my first real arrest, because I'd been arrested for a few other little things, like nothing serious.
Were you naked before you stole the car, or
were you
in a blackout?
Fully clothed. I was fully clothed. So I do remember bits and pieces. Like it's very shady. Like it's very, very shady. But like there was a half ounce of mushrooms that I had taken.
Well, I do it.
And that did
That'll do it.
That did it. And then there was some drinking.
Yeah, that will
and
like
then
put
there
you in
was
the
like,
hospital on its own.
There was just like a disconnect, just like a straight
blunt
disconnect from
mushrooms.
reality. And then I came to in a neighborhood where there was a woman gardening, and I walked up to her house butt naked, and I knocked on her door, and I just tried to see if she would talk to me. That's all I remember. That was the next thing I remember. Yeah. And then after that, it's like
terrifying prospect.
Pre 9/11 here.
Jesus.
No one's calling the police.
Well, no, they did. I mean, it's actually it's a wild story, but we won't go into a whole lot of detail about it. But like ultimately arrested. Then I'm like looking at 3 felony charges from breaking into a house, stealing a car. Then I'm like looking at like actual consequences, and I'm like not good at life on life's terms. I'm not good at showing up for life. So like I just leave the state. You know what I mean? I end up down in Virginia to live with an uncle. So I'm down in the Harrisonburg area. There's a college down there, JMU. I'm about that age. I'm about 18, about to turn 19. So like I like put on my one good outfit and I go start partying with them on the weekends every Thursday to Sunday night. I'm just pretending like I'm a JMU kid, and I'm just drinking and I'm having fun and I'm smoking crack for the first time, and I'm just like it's just life.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Living in my car at one point, you know what I mean? Because like I didn't care. It didn't matter. You know, like Monday through Thursday, I had to live this pathetic, pain in the butt life where I would get whatever job I could get, where I could do whatever I could do. But then I got to live the dream of being something that I never actually was. You know, it was like this delusion I got to live in that, you know, it was like the glory days. Because I can tell you, those first 2 years, they were awesome. But all I ever wanted to do was recap that and get back there somehow. Mm-hmm. And I just never could, you know, and I never could. And then I finally got to a place where like I went to this party. It was like one of those peak nights. Remember those peak nights where it was just like you could do no wrong, and like everything good's happening. I accidentally showed up to like the girls field hockey and the guys lacrosse team, and like they're partying with white shirts, and I'm getting phone numbers written all over me, and I'm controlling the K, and it's just an awesome night. And like I meet somebody that's a distributor, and I'm gonna be his guy, and it clicks, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. And then that night in a blackout, I totaled my car somewhere on the way back home to West Virginia. You know what I mean? Like that was just like I came to the next day, and my car was totaled in a ditch.
Peak.
Yeah,
quick.
It was a quick night, like quick peak. Like I had been working my way
Peak
there
for a few hours, and
then it was done.
Yeah.
The next morning, all gone. And so, what basically now I don't have a home. You know, I have no transportation to get to and from this other trailer that I'm staying at. And then my coworker, who is now, I did get a job as an electrical apprentice, and so I was meeting this guy. Which I would usually sleep in the 7-Eleven parking lot and meet him, and then I would crawl into his van, and then like he would drive me to Leesburg, and I'd be an electrical apprentice, and I was such a bad employee. But basically, like I couldn't meet him anymore because I didn't have a car. It just totaled it. So I had to move in with this guy. So he
offered you to move in.
He offered to move me in for $50 a week. I was going to pay this guy rent.
$50 a week.
So
$50 a week.
I like that.
Let me ask you a question. The $50 a week, it didn't raise any alarms? Like, you weren't thinking,
Well,
what?
This was 24 years ago, Chris.
What could I get?
And
but
in the
paying
middle of
hold
it
on,
all,
man. I was paying rent 24 years ago.
I was just going to rent a room. I was going to rent the room in this guy's house.
For $50 a month or
wait
week.
till you hear about the house. that
He
was
had
in,
a
Chris. You'll
family.
understand
Yeah.
why.
No, I don't know. Like he's helping me out. He's gonna rent me a room. You know.
No, I'm just asking, man. I mean, it's something I always wondered. You're here now. I'm asking it.
No, I never really thought it. I thought if anything, I thought that's
No
a little
warning
steep.
signs went up. No.
Well,
How much were you making a week? Why don't we talk about the
I was
reality?
probably making $300 a
Okay,
week.
so
as a-
1/6 of your pay is going to rent. That's not bad percentage wise
Yeah,
in
it's not bad.
America. I mean,
It's
that's
pretty
not
smart.
bad.
It's
Yeah.
pretty smart, actually. The
Gabe,
personal
yeah,
finances are really good there.
Yeah, and this was a good
That was
old
the
boy.
only good personal
It's good drinking
finance
money.
Family
It's
to
good
raise.
drinking money right there. It's
Yeah,
good drinking
well,
money.
Yeah, that was the rest of the money. That was the other $250. That went raw. That went
so-
all into drinking.
So you're in the you're living. You move in.
I move into this farmhouse, and it is, I mean, it is just the most disgusting thing you could possibly imagine. I mean, just think
shocker.
trash. I mean, when I walked in that first time, I remember just seeing the sea of trash that came up to my knees. That every square inch of floor was just covered in trash. And the first thing I remember is getting punched in the face with this pungent smell. I mean, just this
What did it smell
terrible
like?
smell. It smelled. Do you ever smell like that clogged drain? Like, do you ever pull that clogged drain out and just like smell it? Like, and just imagine that in your entire house. Just the entire house smelling like that.
So, but if the floor was covered with 3 feet of trash, how did you walk around?
Well, there were footpaths that the family had clearly cut in the trash to get to like your chair, the TV,
Like in the
stairs.
snow when you're too lazy
Yeah,
to shovel.
Yeah, exactly. There's just like there's just like tracks.
This is like a bad hoarder situation. It's a bad hoarding situation.
I'll tell you what. If you ever watch that show, True Detective, the season finale when they find the killer,
Yeah.
the hoarding house
Yeah.
that he lived in.
Oh my
I
God.
remember watching that live and being like, "Oh my
You had
god!"
a flashback.
It was a flashback.
Yeah.
I was
Did
like,
they
I
film
lived
that
in
in
a
my
house like that.
And did they film that in my
Yeah,
house?
it might have been. It reminded me. And then I remember Justin looking at me and being like, God, you're such an awful person. And I was like, oh, thanks, dude. Wow.
Why does that make you an awful person?
I don't know. Ask Justin.
For those of you who don't know, Justin is a friend of ours in the program. So
Yeah, he
he's,
just has never. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to say anything. I love Justin. He's a great guy. Great.
he's a listener of the show.
Oh, good. All right.
All right, so you're in this house. You are living with this guy you work with.
Yep.
What is that? Where does that take your drinking?
Well, hold on. Did you renegotiate the $50 a week after you saw
Hell
it?
no, dude. I had my room. First off, I had my own room. Dude, it was that or straight up homelessness.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
I
which
mean-
I had been living in my car. I
Oh.
didn't have that anymore. Like, this was at least a way to get to my.
Tell us about your room. What'd your room look like?
So my room was about the size of this room, actually, except it was like a linoleum floor. It was completely empty.
Probably asbestos.
Probably asbestos, yeah. And then
The old
linoleum.
linoleum.
The old linoleum, yeah. And there was a twin mattress that sat in the corner, and there was a milk crate.
A mattress or a box spring?
No, it was
Be
a mattress.
honest.
It was a
Okay.
mattress because halfway through it, it sloped.
Oh, there you go.
So it just kind of like
mattress.
sloped down. And then it had Star Wars sheets on it. They had never been washed, I could tell. And there were tons of rats all over the place. And I just remember like being in this house, dealing with like all the flies, all the trash, the fact that there, like just feeling for the first time, like getting this moment of clarity that I am living like a freaking animal. And like what happened? Like I remember that first night lying there, listening to the rats crawl around the walls, listening to the fighting downstairs, and just being like, how did I end up here? Like I was a good Christian boy. I was a Jehovah's Witness. You know what I mean? I was baptized at 13. I was supposed to be a spiritual leader and go to Bethlehem and be like, follow my grandfather's footsteps, which he was Robert Ripley, the CEO of the Jehovah's Witness organization. You know what I mean? Like that was what I was supposed to be. And here I am living with rats, fleas, and rednecks. You know what I mean? And I remember that moment of clarity. And I remember very clearly not seeing any way out. Like there was nothing to do. There was nothing I could do about it, except I just felt so bad about myself that I just drank. It was the only solution I had.
That's
I
what
drank.
you could do.
Yeah.
Drink.
And that was when my drinking became not about partying or confidence or trying to get girls or anything like that, but it was just about being okay with the conditions of my life and the animal that I had become and the situation that I was in.
And I think we all have those like glimpses. They're almost like flashes of like reality, and it's like
They can be heartbreaking.
like for me, it was this time, and I was in this club, and we were doing our thing, and this girl was ODing on the floor, probably from narcotics that I was selling at the club, and I remember just stepping over her, thinking to myself, I got to get out of here before the cops show up. And I just stepped. She's foaming at the mouth, she's turning blue. I just stepped over her body on the way to the door, and I remember that night, I thought to myself, I was like, that was fucking terrible. I didn't even care. You know what I mean? And then I just started drinking again because you can't let a thought like that linger.
No, you can't let
You know
it
what I
live.
mean?
You got to kill it.
You got to kill it
Gotta
right
put it
away.
out.
You know, put it out, drink it, stuff it down, just forget it as quickly as you can, which is horrifying.
Yeah. You know what's funny is about 10 years sober, I realized that I had been to an AA meeting before that I had gone to an AA meeting when I was 18 years old, and I had no recollection of that because at the time when I went in my drinking, I wasn't ready for a solution.
Yeah,
and my mind quickly stomped out that memory, and I
Yeah.
didn't even remember that I had been there until I
Yeah.
was about 10 years
Right.
sober.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like shocked that when that epiphany hit me, I was like, oh my God, I'd been to a meeting of my drinking. And I didn't even remember. I do remember thinking, yeah, that guy's story was great, but alcohol's not my problem. Because alcohol wasn't my problem.
Yeah.
Alcohol was my solution.
Yeah. So you're in this. You're living in this farmhouse. You're drinking. I'm assuming it gets even worse and it gets bad. What ended up being kind of the culminating point for a change that started to happen in your life?
Honestly, it was just being arrested again for drunk in public. I mean, those are very common. This time, I was actually sentenced to I was like going to get a misdemeanor. And I was already on probation in Connecticut. And so now I'm on real probation in Virginia. And this is pre-internet and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
of course, I'm not openly admitting to this probation officer that I have a probation officer in Connecticut or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like that. So they just tell me that I have to go to 10 A&A meetings. I'm like, okay. Well, they said NA too. And I really thought NA was going to be the answer because NA was a little bit cooler. I was going to be a little edgier. You know what I mean? I did drugs. You know what I'm saying?
No one wants to be a drunk.
No, nobody wants to be a drunk. I mean, that's just stupid. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as a drunk. You know what I
You
mean?
can't control your liquor.
Like this is because I smoked crack that one time. That's why I'm living like this. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not. That's just what my head told me because I had to protect that one thing that gave me a solution. You know, that one thing that gave me any sort of comfort. But so I went to this. There's only a few AA meetings in the area, and there was one at a hotel. There was no NA meetings, but there was one at the hospital at Harrisonburg. And the rednecks were not driving me to it. So I had to go and buy a $50 mountain bike from Walmart. And I had to ride it 15 miles into Harrisonburg and get to this AA meeting.
Wow.
And man, I was in good shape back then.
That's one of those one of those where if like a sponsee or somebody's like, I can't get to the meeting tonight. You're like, I used to ride my Huffy.
I have never
15 miles
used that
each
against,
way.
but I should. I should because I did it. I did for the
It's
first
like the
6
old.
months.
We used to
Dude,
walk
that's-
10 miles in the snow with no shoes.
That's
Nobody gave you a
desperation
ride?
right there. That's
Well, I didn't
desperation.
know. I just didn't want to get in any trouble.
Yeah.
That was all it was. Like I just didn't want to get in. I didn't want to go to jail. You know what I mean? Because I had my chance to go to jail. I even told my probation officer in Connecticut that I wanted to go to jail, and they didn't put me in jail. And I remember feeling like, God, this will be such a relief to go and just have everything taken care of for me. And then when he didn't, well, here we are now in a rat-infested farmhouse with rednecks. You know, so I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that I have to do this. I don't want to get in any real trouble. I show up. I have no idea what to expect. I mean, maybe it's just I don't want to be at the house. Maybe I don't want to be around these people. Maybe I just want to get out. Maybe that's what my motivation
You go to
was.
the A&A class.
Yeah, go to the A&A class. Exactly. It's like, and I'd been to drug class before, you know what I mean? Networking events, you meet people that you can hang out with. And maybe that was a part of it. I just thought I could meet some new people to hang out with, you know, again, try to revive the vibe, you know? And man, it was there you go. It was different. You know, it was just different. Like these people reminded me of the people that I went to church with as a kid. Like they were all just clean cut and nice and like wearing nice clothes and they were friendly and they were smiling and they just made me uncomfortable, man. Like I just felt so awkward being in their presence. Like they were clearly judging me and they just knew what a dirty, dirty person I was. And I just felt awkward. I just felt off, you know. And I didn't like it at all. And I listened, I sat there and I didn't expect much. But what happened was these people just started sharing, you know what I mean? They started talking about things that I had never actually heard another human being put into words. Like I was identifying with their stories and relating to their experience. And it was that language of the heart, one alcoholic talking to another. I mean, it just shot right through every defense that I had. And I just identified, I related. And it it just totally woke me up. And I was like, what's going on here? You know, like this is interesting. And there was this guy there that offered to pick me up the next day. He gave me a ride home with my bike and all and dropped it off and offered to pick me up the next day. And so I let him.
Yeah.
And that was it. I just let him, you know, and that was the beginning. That was my introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I mean, that was back in 2000.
Yeah.
You know, and my sobriety date 2005. You know, like it was a road to get the sobriety date. You know.
So how did you end up in this area and getting sober?
So yeah, this was down in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and I went to meetings for a while there for about a year, and I was drinking pretty regularly, and there was this guy there, Biker Barry, you know, and I mean he is like a well-known icon out there. I mean, he's been sober for like 30-something years, just big, tall, 6'6", like scruffy mountain beard, like just a wild mountain man, nicest guy you'll ever meet. You know what I mean? I mean he's a little controversial, but nicest guy you'll ever meet, you know. And he came right up to me and he put his giant paw on my shoulder and he goes, "Son, you're gonna die." And then he just turned around and walked away. And I just remember just being like, "Damn, he might be right. I could see that happening. You know, I could see myself dying of this thing." And it was like, then what?
Did you say Paul?
Dude, this guy had fucking giant mountain hands, just giant,
Paws,
like paw,
like paw,
like a bear paw.
like a bear paw, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was intimidating, man. He was an intimidating guy. But then I asked him, I was like, "What do I do?" And I meant it. In that moment, I had that moment that many alcoholics, unfortunately, never actually receive. It was that moment of willingness that only the dying can be and only the dying can have. And I asked him sincerely, "What do I do?" And at this point, I could have very easily just taken what he said and filtered it out and been like, "Oh, I got a better idea," or something like that. But I didn't. I didn't have any other ideas, and I just asked. You know?
Which is a form of asking for help.
Yeah. I think that was my first time genuinely asking for help.
To be out of ideas is the greatest place you can be as a newcomer,
Absolutely. I agree.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
To be completely done.
Completely, you have played out every option available
I
to
needed
you
to.
and
I had
come
to.
up, you know, striking out on every option, and then in a place where you are out of options.
Yep.
So what was this Biker Berry solution for you?
Well, he gave me two choices. He said he could move me to Ocean City, where sobriety was seasonal, he put it, or he could move
Ocean
me to the
City is a
northern
beach
Virginia.
town.
Beach town, yeah.
Okay.
So he said during the summertime, there's a lot of great young people.
But you might have met Matt Moore out there.
Was he living out there at the time?
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe. Jeez, I could have probably helped him long before he got sober. Or he could have helped me.
Matt Moore, another friend of ours in the AA program, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Or he said you could go to the Vienna, Virginia area, where he said there were 2 girls for every 1 guy. And that was the winning statement.
Caught your
Caught
your
Not
attention.
surprised.
my attention.
Yep.
So I chose Vienna, Virginia, and I remember I had to stay there for 14 days because he was going to move me into an Oxford house. This guy Steve something ran an Oxford house right on 123 in the Vienna, Virginia, and he said I had to stay there for 14 days. And I remember Biker Barry let me stay on his couch for 2 weeks. And I'm telling you, it was one of the wildest experiences of my life staying with Biker Barry. I mean, this guy, he would have bikers coming in and out 24/7, just reading the big book, chilling, playing poker, watching very weird, controversial, non-AA approved videos about like the current affairs and stuff like that. That's all I'll say. But I mean, it was wild. But I stayed sober. We went to a lot of meetings. We met a lot of people. And we shot a lot of guns in his backyard, and I stayed sober. And then on that 14th day, we piled a bunch of stuff, which was just a couple trash bags of clothing, a box of self-help books, and my AA big book. And we drove 2 hours up north. He dropped me off at this Oxford house, gave me a where and when, and said, "Go to a meeting." You know, and that was it. And that was how I got introduced to this area. And that was in 2001. 2002. Was it 2002? I think it was 2002.
It was 2002 because that's
it was
when I was
02.
getting sober.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this area. I knew nothing. I knew nobody. I had no contact with family, no friends, and yeah, that was shortly after I went to Tubes, you know, where I met all the people that we know. I met you guys, and it started my journey.
And with that, we could talk forever about what that journey has been like, but we are going to move on to our topic here. The topic for this week's episode is practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. And you just described, I would say, that to perfection with Barry and the way he helped you. and we've known Barry. I knew Barry for a long time, helped a lot of alcoholics. This is a big part of what we do. The literature literally says that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. What, Chris, what's been your experience with this? I know you've done a lot of this over the years.
It's probably been one of the only consistent things I've done is, thankfully, I've done a couple things. I've made a lot of mistakes in AA, I think, but one of the few things that I've done consistently is talk to my sponsor and have an honest dialogue with him, and regularly, and help other alcoholics and go to meetings. So, I mean, that has been sort of the ground, the foundation of my sobriety. And I think the thing is that there's really nothing to get in AA. You know what I mean? I mean, you get sober, you take the steps, one would assume your life is going to improve to some degree, and mine did. But after that, there's only opportunities to give. If you're not involved in that part of it, for me, AA would lose interest pretty quickly. I mean, it would become a place where there would be nothing here, to keep me here. And having those relationships and helping other alcoholics and walking them through the steps, those experiences have enriched my life in a way that would not be possible had I not invested in those relationships. And it has, I didn't learn how to be in a loving relationship with my wife because I went to, I don't know. I mean, I read it in some book, self-help book or something like that. I learned how to be in a loving relationship with my wife because I learned how to love another man in Alcoholics Anonymous for fun and for free. There was no expectation of anything in return, And I think that is that's just one of the lessons I've learned in working with other alcoholics, that you cannot learn that any other way. I don't think, at least not me, So there, it's, for me, it's been valuable. I don't know how. If you're not doing that, I don't know what the fuck you're doing here. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if you're not helping other alcoholics. I don't know what you're doing. Like, if you've already gone through the steps and you're not helping other alcoholics, what are you doing?
And in the literature, it talks about our we're trying to fit ourselves here through growing spiritually to be of maximum service to
other
God
alcoholics.
and the people around us, really, which
God and people around
is
us.
other alcoholics, our families and stuff like that. And so, Mike, what does it look like for you to, intensively work with other alcoholics? How did that? Why don't you maybe just talk quickly about what did that look like for you in the beginning, and how it's kind of changed what what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you guys already harped on. And I mean, Chris has been somebody that I've always heard he's one of the people that always says, at some point you have to make that transition from a giver, or from a taker to a giver. And that was huge in my early sobriety. I mean, I had expectations of that good life that I was going to get. I had things that I wanted, and I got them all. And then I lost them all. And I lived on Chris Hoover's couch for 2 weeks. After 7 years sober, after losing everything. And I'd always
Which was
argue.
awesome for me.
Oh, it was,
but not.
It was great for me
you.
too. I needed it because it was a wake up call.
I forgot we all lived together.
We did all live
All
together.
three of us
We
lived
all
in a
lived
house.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Wow.
Yeah, no, it was a great house.
Now some of us live in the same neighborhood, but we bought houses. But Mike's still.
I'm not there. I'm not moving back to Maryland.
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right,
Not by
so,
choice, but-
Okay.
Anyways.
So yeah.
So I lose everything, and I always argue with my sponsor that I'm just not meant to sponsor people because I never did, And I did a lot of service. I helped a lot of people, and that was my lot. And it was amazing that when I lost everything, I lost the girl, I lost my place, I lost my job, and I'm living on Chris Hoover's couch. I got 5 pigeons in a couple weeks.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because there was a part of me that was experiencing so much pain. There's a part of me that was losing, like literally falling apart at the seams, that all I could do was get out of myself and try to focus on somebody else.
Yeah.
And when doing that, people start asking me for help. When you pray for it, it comes. And I just started focusing all of my time, my attention on these people. And I'll tell you, it saved my life. It legitimately changed my perception of what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous, because my sanity depended on me getting out of myself and focusing on somebody else, And I'll tell you, one of the happiest times in my life is when I would leave work at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. We all know this area is a little unforgiving with traffic. And I would drive from Maryland to Southeast DC to have a book study with the guys at the St. Elizabeth's Men's Shelter. And then I would be there until about 9 p.m. at night. And then I would go home. And then on Sunday, I would drive back there to pick these guys up for our home group.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did that every single weekend for almost 3 years. Hands down, some of the happiest times I've ever been in my life.
And I think we can say this, and why it seems like we're saying like it's almost surprising is that we're selfish. We are selfish and self-centered. The literature says that is the root of our trouble. And what you're just describing is a very unselfish thing to do on a Friday when you get off work, and then again on a Sunday. However, it's in doing that we have found, or at least I know I have found, a connection with a higher power. And I've been able to have experiences watching somebody else get sober. Yep. And on the list of things, like you said, there were things I wanted. I wanted the girl, I wanted the license back, I wanted all that stuff. Nowhere on that list would have been seeing a man from the local treatment center getting a year sober, smiling and hugging me and saying thank you, or just seeing somebody's life change, seeing them get their family back, or visitation with their kids, or something they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have been on the list. And it's such a gift that we're able to experience that here.
I think the real freedom in Alcoholics Anonymous comes when you accept that this life is not our own, that we are on borrowed time, and that we are truly here just to become servants.
Yeah.
And that everything else is a byproduct of that. Everything else in life is a byproduct of that mentality. That's when something inside of me shifted and I started feeling and being a different person.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's move on to the next part of our show. This is fun. We're going to get into the newcomer tip of the week. Look at that newcomer.
He's running out of the meeting as fast as he can.
He heard somebody talk about something he didn't want to hear.
Isn't that Dan? Remember that guy Dan from back in the day?
No, that's not him.
It's not Dan.
No. But he heard, maybe he saw his sponsor there or something, and he knew
roll it out real
he'd
quick.
been slacking on his 4-step. He didn't want to tell him, or he found out it was a chip meeting, or he just knew he was going to have to talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's usually why people are skating out quick.
Oh,
they don't want
fear.
anyone to corner them or say hi or have a conversation. I mean, that's why I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why our newcomer tip of the week is arriving 1 minute before the meeting starts and leaving 1 minute after it ends is a hard way to join the AA program. And I think this is good if you're new. Again, this tip we give every week. They're just simple things. I think that a lot of the time I didn't think about when I first came to AA, and this is a good one.
Yeah.
Getting to the meeting right when it starts, leaving right when it ends, not really going to get you in the middle of the AA program, right?
How do you build any relationships? How do you get to know people? How do you find people to follow? You know? How do you get plugged into service? Were you just going to show up and take?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, were you going to process all the information you've learned and tell it to your psychiatrist or your therapist?
And I think a lot of new people don't really know what the AA program is. They think that it's that meeting and it starts at 8 and it ends at 9. Like, let me ask you this. If you were going to a yoga class or you were going to any other, you could arrive a few minutes before it met and still participate in the program, right?
Absolutely.
So I think what we're saying is Alcoholics Anonymous is more than just that meeting.
Yeah, I don't think it's any malice that people have this attitude, initially. I mean, I think it's like they treat it just like any other thing that is an hour long that they have to show up to, or, therapy. I mean, trust me.
Checking the box.
You go see a counselor or a therapist, you definitely ain't going there a half hour early.
No.
They definitely don't want to talk to you. You're getting charged for a whole hour, even though they talk to you for 50 minutes. You know what I mean? you know,
That's how it goes. Yeah.
And I'm not knocking it because it's great. You know what I mean? I do couples counseling and it's helped a lot. But this is different because you want to establish those relationships. And how can you know how to do something if you don't watch someone else do it that's been down that road before you? You know, how can you know? It's like anything else that you do in life. I mean, how do you know how to do it? How did you know how to be an electrician unless you followed around another electrician?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, but you don't think like that when you're new. You're just like,
No, but I think, and you said it all right there, Mike. There's so much, how are you going to get connected with people?
Right.
How are you going to find a sponsor? How are you going to participate in service, which a lot of people when they're new, that does, I remember going to some AA meetings and beginning and having no thought whatsoever that somebody set up the chairs, somebody made the coffee,
no
somebody
thought.
made cookies. It just,
no way.
somebody built a relationship with the church.
I thought it
somebody
was all government
handling-
program, honestly. I really thought it was all done by the
AA
church.
class.
Yeah,
AA
exactly.
class.
I don't know what I
Social
thought.
workers do it. That's literally what I thought.
I didn't think
Or
anything.
assumed.
I didn't even care. I just,
I
I
didn't
just
give it
didn't
one
even
thought,
cross
dude.
my mind.
Not even into sobriety for a while.
Yeah.
And
And so-
I'm embarrassed to say.
Yeah.
But I think if you're new, what we're trying to say is try getting to the meeting a little bit earlier.
Invest.
Maybe hang out a little bit longer afterward, talk to some people. And it's such a small part, meetings in general are part of the program, but there's so much more.
Well, when you watch people, like for me, when I was new, when I saw how you guys interacted with each other at the diner or at your house, like that threw me for a loop. You guys were treating each other so much differently than all the people that had ever been in my life, and that was so important to me to actually see you guys treat each other with kindness and love and tolerance and patience. Like I had never experienced that. Like I'd
That's
never
the
seen
real
people
value.
do that.
That's the real. If I think about it, if I think about the experiences I've had in AA, it's rarely I think about an AA meeting like that 1 hour. I
Never.
think about
I can't think of
all the
anything that was
things
said.
that happen between those meetings. After the meeting until
The
the next meeting,
experiences.
all the relationships and the things that we do, and all the fun that we have, and all the calls that I've made, and all the phone calls that people listen to me on. You know what I mean? All those things. That is really it, man. And the truth is that I say it all the time. We are so lucky. We're so lucky we have this. You know what I mean? Because normal people, they would die to have the kind of joy that we can have because we're alcoholic and we're helping other alcoholics, and we get to gather in a place and have and break bread and talk to each other and share our experiences. I mean, normal people they would crawl to the meeting.
Most normal people
Yeah.
never get to experience what selflessness actually is. They have
Well,
no
I mean,
idea.
that's not true. I mean, look,
Well,
there's
no.
a lot of things. People are involved in religion and they do charity
I'm
work
not
and stuff
saying
like that.
all, but there are a lot of them.
But I mean, we're grateful.
We live a unique life. I always think about like
Yeah.
a couple of scenarios that when I was newer that I would always think about is we would be in a place together in a group, take either maybe at the diner or at the beach or somewhere, and people would just
notice.
gravitate. They would just come over because we're a large group. We're all different ages,
Yeah.
races, genders. You've
Yeah.
got all types of people, right? And they would come over.
It's
to
a
take-
sight to
and we're
behold. It
laughing. The other thing is we're laughing
Yeah.
a
Having a
lot.
blast.
Right? And they come over and they're like, "What is this? What are you guys?" Or one of my favorites, we do large events, weekend events where we need a bunch of food, and we do runs to Costco. And the people in Costco are looking at us. We've got 8 carts and we're buying all this food. And they're like, "What are you guys doing?" And a lot of them will be like, "Next stop, the beer store, huh? You got to be getting a bunch." And little do they know, no, we're not. But it's just. It's
They
funny
always
how
ask
that-
me
how that
when they
is.
come up to me. They always ask me, "Is this your retirement party?"
Yeah. I mean, hey,
so good.
whatever.
Bogey.
That's fogey. That's such an outdated term.
know what that
Where did you pick that term
That
up,
is-
Gabe?
That is.
That's an outdated term.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
Yeah.
anybody say that.
How
in
does a
long
millennial
time.
come up with that term?
I didn't come
Bogey.
up with it. There was a
I
whole.
don't even
there was
know
a
what
whole.
that is.
There's a whole bit on College Humor back in the 2000s.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so newcomer tip of the week: get to the meeting a little early, maybe stay a little
Invest,
late.
invest.
Invest in the program. I'm going to move on to my favorite part of the show.
The segment.
Let's get into our sketch of the week. This week's sketch is a fun one. If you are online on Zoom right now, please feel free to either throw a question in the chat or raise your hand. Looks like we've already got, looks like we already have a question.
Yeah, it's been cooking there for a
So
while.
the sketch of the week is called No One Likes Asking for Help, Questions for Our Guest. And I can already see a question from one of our participants,
Got
Joe
nothing to
C.
do with
Now,
the topic. but
here's the
it is a
the
good
thing.
question.
Here's
I will
the
say
thing.
that.
This guest knows
How
our.
inappropriate am I allowed to be?
Well, let me just say this. This listener or watcher, Joe C., knows our guest personally because he's asking a question about his nickname.
Yeah.
And his nickname is, if you slide the question over a little bit more on my screen, it says, can you shed any light on how Mike got the nickname Meat Leg? Now, here's what I'll say.
We cannot.
I don't think we
Shed
should
light
talk
on
about
it.
that too much. Yeah, don't be too inappropriate. So maybe give a basic, just a broad, even if you don't talk about it, just talk about the fact that you have this nickname and when you got it. All that real quick.
I'm trying so hard to be appropriate.
I don't know how you
don't
could
know
talk
how
about
to
this.
Dude,
It's
you're just,
inappropriate.
you're just filling
I
in the
don't know.
lines at this point.
Have you ever had a girl ask you why do they call you Meat Leg?
You're Meat Leg. I mean, okay. I mean,
I'm
here's
trying to
what I'll
think.
say.
I'm trying to
Well,
think
we
about a
should-
way to be
we should
inappropriate.
Move to the
This
next
is what I'll
question.
say. This is what I'm going to say.
right now.
Here's what I'll say.
That's what we should.
Yeah, this is what I'll say. We've got a large group of people in our A community around here, and people with names like Mike and John, we get nicknames, and your name is Meat Leg.
I never
We'll
got
just-
a nickname, by the way, but thankfully.
Well, that's just because we all call you your last name.
Yeah.
Hoover.
So,
Hoover, which is fine. You can say
Just
it.
fine. So, great question,
This is
Joe.
an AA meeting. We have to
Anybody
be
else? Does
appropriate.
anybody else have any questions or any hand raised? You want to come on and ask a question?
We got somebody in the studio audience.
Studio audience.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Michael,
actually have a studio audience.
Michael
Michael is here
P.
tonight as a
Michael
studio
P.
guest. He's going to ask a question into the microphone.
Let's hear it.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Took me a second to
Mike,
come
what's
up
up,
with the,
man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Thanks for
Doing
coming
well.
in today.
Thanks for being here.
Waded through the crowd to get to the front here.
Yep.
Hey Mike, quick question. What's the biggest difference between the VA AA meetings and the Maryland AA meeting?
Ooh,
Is there a difference?
this is interesting.
difference
That's a good
between
question,
Good
Mike.
question,
VA.
Mike.
All right.
Man, I mean, over the years or right now, currently? Because I can tell you that over the years, I've gone to good meetings in both, and I've gone to bad meetings in both.
Of course.
Yeah. And
But
I
is
would,
there a different energies or a different kind of? Because I've heard some things like, oh, the VA people are like this, or the Maryland people are like this. Have you had any of that
I
experience?
would
with that?
say no. I would say so. A lot of the meetings that I go to in Virginia have a lot of newcomers when it comes to like they get bussed in from the rehabs around there, or the meetings are close by to rehabs. And
That's
stuff. So
good.
those are cool. I like those.
Yeah.
There's some younger people. There's some young people meetings that get a little wild, but again, they kind of just remind me of when I was new in the meetings that I went to, and those can be pretty good. And there's a lot of house meetings that really keep it
In Virginia.
OG, in Virginia,
Okay.
yeah, and they can be great. You know,
I love house meetings.
now, Maryland, I feel like has a tradition of just having like the solid, like
Very,
large
yeah.
group, traditional, like
Very big book. This is
big
very,
book
yeah.
AA. Like this is like Johnny Harris coming out and telling you how to do things. You know what I mean? And so like it's just different. It both can be good, both can be unbearable. It all depends on your attitude and where you're at that day. But I would say I personally, the people that I know and respect the most are mostly in Maryland, and there are a lot in Virginia. Don't get me wrong, but they're mostly in Maryland, and so majority of the meetings I go to are in Maryland,
I like it.
just because that's where they're at.
Yeah.
That's where the people are that I
question.
know.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
What
there's
else we
lots
got?
of meetings.
there's lots of meetings everywhere.
They're all some are good.
And there
some
are
are
good
bad.
meetings all over the place,
Yeah.
and there are terrible meetings all over the place.
Yeah.
Anybody else? We got any hands up? Anybody want to ask a question to our guest?
We got a written question.
All right.
All right.
Let's run it.
So, Mike, you talked about the rat-infested farmhouse, $50 a week. Have you run into any of the family members or any of the people that live there since you've gone sober?
It's a good one.
What, you have?
That's a great question. Who came up with that?
John puts on a camp out. Run pig, run camp
We
out.
put it out. We put it on together.
All right, I help out.
Don't-
I help out.
It's
John.
the
It's John.
Run, John, run.
It's
No,
run,
it's
John, run
not.
camp out.
It's a lot of people.
It's a
who
great
do a
event. If
lot.
you've never been, you absolutely
It
should.
is. It is an
But
amazing event.
Funny thing is, about what 8-9 years ago, it moved to a new location.
Yes.
and the location just happens to be 1.5 miles down the street from the rat-infested
Ooh,
farmhouse.
from the actual farmhouse.
So there's a Sheetz there that they built recently. It wasn't there when I lived there before, but now there's like a
Certainly
Sheetz
not, yeah.
gas station with a Burger King right there off the exit.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there with like Pretty Boy, Deanna, I think Laura at the time, and like we're all just chilling. We walk in there, and I'm just like doing my thing, looking for like energy drink stuff, and all of a sudden I hear Junior.
Oh,
What's Junior?
Junior was what they called me. They called
Oh,
me Junior.
that was your
That was my
that was
nickname.
your
That was my
old
original
drinking
nickname.
nickname.
Was Junior.
hey, Junior.
Junior the meat leg.
And dude, I turned and as
Creamy
soon as I
leg.
heard the voice, it just like sent a shudder because I
Oh,
knew.
boy.
And I turned around, and there was this 400-pound behemoth of a woman that was the mom.
Wow.
And she just had that big toothless smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God. I didn't remember her name
Yeah,
or anything, but I walked up. I was like, how you doing? And she told me about how she's like a great-great-grandma.
Oh my
She's like
gosh.
my age.
Yeah.
And like just like all the craziness that happened in the last like 20
great
years.
great grandma.
Did she-
Like at 40. Like it
Did
was
she try to pick you up?
Oh, dude, she was hitting on me. Pretty Boy saw the whole thing, like how she was just like leaning everything over
I was
the
just
counter.
joking about that, but
Oh, dude, it was so bad. It was so bad. And it was awkward, but I'll tell you, it gave me a lot of gratitude to
Oh,
see
I bet.
that where they were at, like nothing had really changed. If anything, it had gotten so much worse for them. And here I was with great people doing something really good.
Yeah.
And my life was just a completely different situation. It
Yeah.
really, I mean, it was depressing, but at the same time, it was really enlightening and sad.
Yeah.
But like, it was good.
well, we took you in, man. You were a wild animal.
I'm still kind of a wild animal, but yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
You're house trained at least.
So Jack Elder used to tell people that I was raised by wolves, and they were like, "Oh, that makes sense." They just believed him and didn't question it
Mm-hmm.
for years.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until it was brought up to me.
That's a great question. And
I don't think
and a
wolves
great-
would have lived in that house though. Not even for $50 a week.
Rats did, big rats.
All right, let's move on. Let's try to get at least one more in here. It looks like we got another question from somebody online. Who we got? We got Drew R asking, so you prefer same-sex meetings or mixed-sex meetings, and why? It's a great question, too.
That is a great question, and I'll tell you that over the years, I have kind of always been a part of just like the
Or
mixed
both.
sex.
Maybe
I never actually liked men's meetings for many, many years. And I tell you that in the last 4 years, something changed where I actually started to be more attracted to men's meetings. And I go to mostly men's meetings. I think the only mixed meeting I go to now is on Thursday nights at Home Group Haven. But every other meeting I go to during the week is a men's meeting.
Yeah.
I just like it. I just
There's
like
good
the bro
things about
hang.
both.
There's good things about both, and
Yeah.
I don't knock either one. And like I said, 20 years of my sobriety, we're mixed. We're mixed men and women. But I now, where I'm at, I have just found that I enjoy the message and I enjoy the camaraderie of being around the dudes. I just do. It's like what I'm attracted to. And I think over the years, everybody can be attracted to whatever they're attracted to, whatever gets them here.
And it changes,
You
I
It
mean,
changes, yeah.
and that's okay. You stay sober in your journey in AA. I mean, you might gravitate to different types of meetings. And,
Yep.
that's the great thing about AA. There's so much
There's so many
diversity here. I mean, there's really, a
A lot of options.
lot of options.
People do what works for them.
Yep.
When I read that from up here, I thought he was asking me about same-sex marriages. I was like, why are we talking about this?
Oh,
It's like, thanks, Drew.
probably not a topic for the
Not the meeting.
AA
no.
podcast. But
No.
Drew, thank you so much for your question
Thanks,
and
Drew.
for everybody for
Yeah.
tuning in tonight. And most of all, to our guest, Mike L., who was our first guest, and now he finally gets to
Lucky number
be
13.
on our recording. Our 13.
I like that number.
It's a great
It's a
number.
great number.
Yeah.
This is it's been a great show. We could talk
On the
to
week
you
of
forever.
Friday the 13th?
No,
No.
that would be even
That would be
cooler.
great.
But thank you again. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
We are going to be back next week with
Absolutely.
another great guest, another great episode of The Meeting After the Meeting. Come back 8 p.m.
Please join us.
next Wednesday. Listen to our other episodes if you haven't on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever you can get your podcast. We're so glad you're here. Thank you.